So for today's conscious conversation, I'm really grateful to have Mary Pat Lemare here. And we are going to be exploring a topic along with this session. Mary Pat, what do you want to talk about?
I would like to talk about being done, like really done, with being mean to myself.
Wow. What the heck? What does that mean? Like, why? Like, how? Like, you're mean to yourself? Like, because we're really talking about mean girls, right? We're talking, and you can also substitute, it's not about sex, because there's a lot of men, boys, who are mean boys. Like, I want to acknowledge that as well. So it's not really about sexuality, girl, boy. So you're mean to yourself. Like, I love this conversation because this is so common in our society, and yet nobody is honest about it. Like, we're so busy avoiding, pretending, and denying the reality. I once asked someone if they love themselves, and this client in particular answered, I get my nails done. And I really appreciated that. It was so beautiful. And the reality is, when she really explored farther, she was bringing into awareness how cruel she was within her thoughts about herself and how she related to herself. So tell me about ways that you're mean to yourself.
The main thing that I think of right away is just all the self-talk. You know, the stuff that goes on, maybe even flying under the radar of my consciousness, that's just so insidious that, you know, how do I get in there and pull it out by the roots?
So body type, body imaging, comparing self to others, comparing your life with other people's lives, that kind of stuff. Because I think it's really important so we can have common ground in a conversation to talk about all the ways we do this instead of just keeping it out there. Oh, I'm not kind to myself.
Okay.
Like, to be more specific on the ways that we're really cruel. We're really abusive. Fucking abusive to ourselves.
I know one way that I do it is because I'm divorced. I feel like that automatically means that I'm damaged goods. That somehow I am less than a woman that's married or...
Okay, beautiful. Question for you. Before you were even married, what did you think of yourself as? Just curious. I bet I know the answer.
That's true.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, and it's been a long time since I've really, really, really loved, valued, and appreciated myself for a good amount of time. You know, I can do it in snippets and when I feel really supported and, you know,
Right.
after healing intensives or, you know, those kinds of times seem to be good for me, but
it comes in layers, and I appreciate that. And my experience of you is you're more apt to come around quicker and faster. It doesn't have to be as long of a time period before you see what you're doing and you make adjustments to be loving and valuing and kind and respectful to yourself. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
First thing that comes to mind, if anything, what is the payoff for being mean and cruel to yourself? Like, what do you get out of it? First thing that comes to mind, if anything, what's the payoff for being mean and cruel to yourself?
I just think that's what I learned, whether my family intended for me to learn that or not. So I don't know that there is a payoff.
Got it. I love that. So, what I'm hearing you say is you really identify, like, okay, this is what we do as a woman. We go ahead and we don't worry what our needs are. We focus on what's going on for the man or what's going on for other people. So, what I'm hearing you say, by the way, did we have the same mom and dad? And this isn't about making them wrong at all. It's really a societal thing. Give until it hurts, give some more. Look without instead of looking within. And it's interesting because there's such futility and there's no possibility for change without taking personal responsibility for who we are and what we need. And I have found, as I've done my work along the way, I can be so much more present in giving to others through a foundational strength within loving, valuing, and respecting myself. And it's a win-win situation for everyone. So what I hear you saying is it's insidious, and it's this belief of I'm damaged goods. So is it true? Are you damaged goods? Like, if you were 100 pounds more, 100 pounds less, if your size was smaller, if your eyes were closer together, farther apart, bigger, like whatever our stories are, whether it's body imaging, whether it's actions, whether it's size of my bank account. I mean, I've actually worked with very wealthy people, and how they feel about themselves within their self-esteem has nothing to do with their bank account at all.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've always thought about, with plastic surgery stuff too, is that just because you change that one element of your body or those multiple elements of your body, if you do that without changing your internal landscape, it doesn't matter.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on. So, you were taught not to love, value, and respect yourself?
I don't think anybody necessarily taught me that consciously, but because
Right.
most of us or I shouldn't even say most of us, but there's a lot of unconscious parenting and
What?
going on, not just with parents, but with adults around you or siblings or...
Absolutely. So, let's look at tools of ways you can shift and be more loving and kind to yourself. So, in awareness, what if, whenever you connected with being mean to yourself, as soon as you recognize it, you say, stop. Cancel, cancel, cancel. And you take 1 minute, 30 seconds to fill those beliefs and invite in the highest enlightened awareness of your soul, to invite in the pure light of consciousness. Into every cell of your body. To invite in that pure love and to fill it.
It's so funny because when you do that, it feels so good. Then it's like, why don't I do that all the time?
Right. But it's an awareness thing and it's a practice thing. Because when you think about it, the habitual programming is set in this groove to come from a place of lack, to come from a place of not enough. And unless we do a conscious reset, nothing changes. And so it truly is a practice. Like, how can we open to a new way? How can we open to a new possibility? So what is the tool that we can use to connect with in awareness? You can even set a timer every 15 minutes. And when the timer goes off, okay, what was I thinking? And is there anything about what I was thinking that wasn't loving and kind? Mm-hmm. Like, use that as an awareness practice. And to use that as a time of reset. Okay, I'm going to fill every cell of my being with light, love, and truth, and invite in to my body, mentally, emotionally, and physically, inviting in the highest enlightened awareness of my soul. So right now, go ahead and do that. Taking a deep breath, breathing all the way into your lower abdomen to the top of your shoulders. Because when we breathe, we allow ourselves to be filled with inspiration. And inspiration, the root of it is inspiri, and in Latin that translates in spirit. So breathe in spirit. Breathe in the highest enlightened awareness of your soul, who knows how magnificent you are, whether you're aware of it or not. So this is the way to align. It's through practice. And the practice requires taking personal responsibility. I also want to acknowledge that if we're comfortable in being in relationship with someone else or ourselves, and it's negative, then we're going to crave that negativity because that's what we're comfortable with. So as we move to make these shifts to being kinder and more loving, it really requires focus because we're shifting to having a new experience. I recently had a conversation with my son that I deeply appreciated. A really safe thing for him is his cat. And so when he is with someone else, if he's struggling to open his heart, he thinks of them as his cat. And then his heart flies open and he can relate to them and make that shift completely. And it's not like he's psychotic, but it's with intention, relating to them in a place of love. Oh, there's oneness, there's connection. This individual, oh, and his cat's name is Floyders. So he's like, oh, Floyders, and his heart just flies open. And it's such an effective tool. And it's not about pretending that or denying ourselves. In fact, it's about giving ourselves the opportunity where we do know how to love and extend love. We're giving ourselves the opportunity to stretch our love muscles, if you will, and be able to extend it to other people in other forms. Not for the sake of the other people. I love because it's who I am. And so, of course, I want to extend it to as many people as I can in all different forms, because that's authentic to who I am. And so giving ourselves abilities and ways to practice being loving and kind. But it really requires a commitment. And are you willing to make that commitment to yourself? Just feel into that. Are you willing to make a commitment to not just checking in with what are your children's needs, what are your partner's needs, what are your family of origin's needs, what are the needs of people at work, but also equally 50% of the time checking in with, ooh, what are my needs? What do I need?
See, I was kind of okay with it until you said 50%. And then, like, that's crazy talk. 50% of the time? I mean, I get that
I
it's not
understand.
crazy talk,
Right,
but it was
right.
just funny to watch myself be okay until you said 50%. You know?
Absolutely. And the thing about 50%, if I don't have a vision of myself being present and, oh, look, they just said something and I'm contracting. If I'm not aware of what I'm experiencing, then I can't be aware and available for the other individual.
Right.
So it's really about how can I be more present in my life for other people? Yeah, but it's only through awareness within myself.
Well, and I think for me, sometimes it's hard to make that shift to understand, you know, it's like, oh, I don't have time or I have all of these things. When in reality, when you do that kind of stuff for yourself, all of a sudden things open up and you have, you know, just things flow more freely and you can give more instead of being stuck in that daily grind of,
Right.
I have to do this and then this and then this and then this.
Because we become very short-sighted, don't we? Even recently, I had the pleasure of doing this sabbatical in Key Mixto, Mexico, and in this tiny village of 50 people, their world was very different from mine. How they experience life, what goes on for them. And I'm not saying better or worse, just very different. Kitchens or chickens can go in the kitchen, you know? No doors and screens often. Like just a whole new world. Very simple in so many ways. And it was fascinating. It's like, oh, this is just different from, and it stretches us to be able to see new experience, get outside of ourselves. With depression, the suppression, repression, and depression, we often get so caught up in our own experience internally, there's no possibility of a balance of giving and receiving. Because if I'm not giving to others, then the balance of feeling my value in who I am, we're out of balance. And so the depression can be consuming when we get locked inside of ourselves and we can't see that other worlds exist. So often when a kitten comes into our life who's needy, or a dog, or, you know, something along that line, it takes us outside of ourselves and it helps us to find more of a balance within the possibility of giving and receiving. But we can also use those elements of coming into our lives to lose ourselves. Give until it hurts, give some more. Oh, I don't feel safe, I have to do more. Oh, I'm not enough, I have to do more. And that just perpetuates the mean girls and the mean boys.
My daughter's in middle school, and she's part of a group that I would say are the mean girls.
Wow.
And so I was just laughing at myself in my head that I periodically get after her about being part of this group that's the mean girls. And she's watched me be a mean girl to myself. Like, how could she hope to have it any other way?
That's profound.
That's kind of interesting.
I love your awareness. That's absolutely profound.
Don't be a mean girl, but watch me be a mean girl to myself and everybody else all day long. But you don't do it.
So what's the new way?
Just really opening my heart, being compassionate, and yeah, starting with myself. Because I know that I have people around me that I don't have to give to, but that I want to give to. That, you know, I love being a mom.
Yes.
But well, I'd like to up my standards for how I teach them to be in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how would you like to demonstrate that to them?
It just seems like it would be amazing if they could see me really value myself.
Wow. Absolutely. I love your awareness, Mary Pat, and I love your desire. Because from that place in awareness, that opens us to a whole new possibility to bring compassion and understanding, and then to bring that compassion and understanding to a place of transformation, actively inviting love into our lives, into our actions more and more, in all ways. And it's such a game changer. And let's be clear, you can fill your heart with loving kindness as you're brushing your teeth, as you're interacting with a boss or a client or however that is, not because you should. When we live through our head, it can be very draining because it only feeds us 10% when we live mentally, and it's exhausting. But to be able to live our life through our hearts and dropping into our hearts, it feeds us 80 to 90%. When we live our life through our hearts, there's a greater level of flow. And it's acceptance, it's surrender, and it's loving in kind, and it rocks. Thank you for this exploration.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, really powerful. So what do you want to say to the mean girl?
Knock it off.
And really, it's not about abusing the mean girl. It's about loving the mean girl and saying, of course, sweetheart. You didn't know any other way. I didn't either. You're so loved. And like letting the mean girl know she is lovable. And meet her with love. Not attack, not more abuse, not more you shouldn't. But more like, you're amazing. It's okay. You can be kind. Gentle, gentle. Gentleness and ease. Awesome. Thank you, sweetheart. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.